Ready? All right, I'd like to call to order the planning board meeting of June 4th, 2024. My name's Hazel Nurse. I'm the chairman of the planning board. To my far left is Jenny Gingras, our town planner. Next to her is John Pizzoni, John Gelsich. To my far right is Kristen Bouchard, our AA, Kristen Bellinger, Peter Bouchard, and Mark Silverberg. Yeah, exactly. By now, did it right or not? First thing on our agenda, I'm going to switch the agenda around because we have one continuation and then we have a site plan review. So let's start with the continuation of the public hearing for the application at 18 and 30 Lyman Street. We've had a request from the applicant to adjourn this until our next meeting, which is on the 18th of June. And this is, I believe, is due to the fact that they're waiting on peer review and also discussions they're still holding on sewer with the DPW. Jenny, do you have anything to add to that? Okay. Are there any questions from any member of the board on this? If they're not, could I have a motion to continue this application until our next meeting on the 18th of June?
I move that the planning board continue the hearing for 18 and 30 Lyman Street until June 18th, 2024 hearing date.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? That's 5-0. Thank you. Our next matter is a opening of a public hearing for a site plan review for an application at 0 Lyman Street, application ID 24-01221, and because this is the first hearing on this, I will have to read the legal notice. In accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 40A, Sections 9 and 11, and Section 3.1 of the Town of Westborough zoning bylaw, the Westborough Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, June 4th at 6:30 p.m. on application record number 24-01221, requesting a full site plan review for a proposed community dog park. The location of the proposed project is 0 Lyman Street, parcel 38-1FB-0, Westborough, Mass., located in the mixed-use development MUD zoning district. The owner and applicant for the filing is the Town of Westborough. The public hearing will be held in the Great Hall of the Forbes Municipal Building, 45 West Main Street, Westborough, Mass. Please see the calendar on the Town of Westborough homepage, posted 48 hours prior to the public hearing for additional information. To access the application and any submitted documents, please go to our online permitting system, Permit Pro, https://patriotpermitpro.com, and search the above reference record number. Records are also available for review in the Westborough Planning Office at 45 West Main Street, Westborough, Massachusetts, during regular business hours. Persons unable to attend may submit comments in writing to the Westborough Planning Board in advance of the public hearing. This was noticed in the Worcester Telegram and Gazette on 5/31 and 5/20. All right, Jen, you're up. If you could give your name. Oh, and I also wanted to mention this meeting is being recorded by Westborough TV.
Everyone, my name is Jen Kirkland. I am the recreation director here in town. Oh. There we go. Hi, I'm Jen Kirkland, the recreation director here in town. Thanks for having me tonight. I was saying before, in my 10 years here, I don't think I've ever presented in front of your board, so this is the first. I'm here tonight to talk about a dog park that we're proposing at 0 Lyman Street. I'm going to go through some of kind of how we got here, where we're planning to have the park, a couple of and other matters, but I'm going to leave a lot of the design discussion to Kyle, our architect that's worked on this project. So a dog park here, I just wanted to point out that a dog park has been called out in 4 of the town's kind of strategic or planning documents. The first being the 2016 strategic plan. In 2016, our department put together a conceptual design for the state hospital or the Chauncey area property. And the dog park was called out specifically in that plan. In 2018, the open space and rec plan also calls out the need for a dog park. And more recently, the 2021 master plan also calls out a dog park. This is a general overview of the area about where at the state hospital property, if you're not familiar, on where we're proposing to put the park. So this is Lyman Street back here. This is Dr. Solomon Carter Fuller Road. And this area right here is where we're proposing to have the dog park. This is obviously Lake Chauncey. This right here is our newest cricket pitch. If you go across the way this way and down, those are all of the soccer fields that are currently there. So just some benefits of a dog park. In 2023, there were over 2,000 registered dogs in Westborough. A dog park decreases the number of off-leash dogs in public spaces, and it gives folks that don't necessarily have a backyard or great sidewalks in their neighborhood to exercise their dogs. Some housekeeping maintenance items. The park would become another facility that the rec department manages. We already manage over 30 facilities. In regards to trash, DPW will remove the trash from the park as they do at all of our other facilities. I've worked with the town's animal control officer to develop some draft policies and procedures, and we'll continue to work closely with her as we move through the process to make sure that we're meeting any requirements that they have. In regards to upkeeping the park, in my research talking with other towns, usually towns are spending less than $1,000 annually on the upkeep and maintenance of the park. A lot of towns report that facilities like this, people have a vested interest and they want to maintain the park and keep it nice. And we see that at the pickleball courts or at our cricket pitches. These are things people want and they want to maintain them and keep them as nice as possible. Like I said, I'm going to let Kyle talk a lot about more about the design, but the surface will be made of will be pea stone. I should mention that this park will be funded 90% from a grant from the Stanton Foundation, and so many of the design elements that you'll see are derived from Stanton. So they're things that Stanton Foundation requires. The Stanton Foundation is, they sponsor many dog parks, but they also have a canine program. They care very much about the welfare of dogs. So the surfacing that they suggest or require rather is this pea stone surfacing. You see it in many dog parks, safe for dogs, and it's not a great picture, but it's kind of just like small stones there for the surface. So these are some of our policies. Again, these are all drafts and some signage that will be posted. These signs will be posted or hung on the outside of the fence, similar to our other facilities. Again, pretty straightforward. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We worked with, I've kind of reached out to other towns that already have dog parks and what policies and procedures make sense. So again, these were done in collaboration with our animal control officer. Another example of some signage, our animal control officer felt it was important to have something, with her number on there to make sure if there's an event of an emergency. The park, like I said, Kyle will go into that, but it will have 2 areas, a small dog area and a large dog area. The small dog area will be only for dogs weighing less than 25 pounds. And then we'd have, this QR code is not live, so if you scan it, it won't go anywhere. But it will link to the town's website for the leash bylaw and any other kind of animal control information. I also wanted to touch on the BWALT project. I'm aware that the BWALT has, in their proposal, they're proposing their trail to kind of come up through, where's my mouse? The orange right here, this is their proposed, or the blue, the green. That's their proposed trail that would go up through here. This road is already here, and this is our dog park. So they would have from the fence of our dog park to where they're proposing the trail, 40 feet. So I think that having a dog park right off the trail is a nice amenity to their project. And there shouldn't be any reason that they couldn't complete, anything they needed to do for the trail. So that's all I have in regards to kind of just how we got here, and then I'll let Kyle talk a little bit about the design. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Hello, my name's Kyle Zick. I'm a landscape architect with KZLA. My firm has been hired by the town to design the dog park. So thanks, Jen, for that introduction. I'll get into more of the specifics of the design and be happy to answer any questions. Jen already showed this aerial photos to give you some orientation, but that's Dr. Solomon Fuller Carter Road, where some of this topsoil's already been stripped, is generally where the dog park would be, and that's Lake Chauncey. What are the goals of the project? We're trying to create a safe and accessible, enclosed, off-leash dog park. And we'll do that in a way that has minimal impact on natural resources, and it would have accessible connections and would be accessible within the dog park itself. We've had a number of steps to our design process. We started with the conceptual design the town created, then we've had input from the community. We've developed construction documents. We've been in front of the Conservation Commission, and now and in front of the Select Board, and we're here with you tonight. And then following this, we would make any revisions and have bid documents prepared so we could build this. Now, Jen mentioned the funder from the Stanton Foundation, and they require what's on the left-hand side of this page. So we don't really have an option. A fence that has to be 5 feet tall. We have to have potable water, so we'll have a drinking fountain and also a spigot. And the spigot allows us to keep things clean and that kind of thing. There's shade for dogs and owners, and that can't just be trees. We have some built structures. There's a dual gate entryway, so like an airlock. So one gate doesn't allow a dog to run out. Accessible parking, dog waste bags and receptacles, seating, signage, and surfacing. As Jen mentioned, they require the P-stone. And then optional things are the agility play components, like ramps or jumps or obstacles like that. Just to give you a sense of the design or where this is located, I already mentioned Dr. Solomon Carter Fuller Way here. We have a L-shaped dog park, and it's divided into 2 spaces, one for small dogs and one for large dogs. The entrance is here, and that's where that airlock is that I mentioned, the double gate. And then we have accessible parking, and there's a sidewalk that connects to existing sidewalk along the roadway here. Now, I'll get into more details, but also with Lake Chauncey here, there are some bordering vegetated wetlands that we've been in front of the Conservation Commission for. There's delineated wetland here, and the 100-foot buffer goes through about 1/3 of the dog park. And we've moved the dog park up as far away from the wetland and the buffer as we can before we get too close to the road or we start to get too elongated and it's not really as safe for dog use. As part of the public process, we wanted to compare the size of the dog park to other local ones that people knew. So this is right in the range of the one in that Tufts has, or Hopkinton, or in Framingham. I think originally we were a bit smaller than this, maybe 5,000 square feet lower. So we have made it as big as we can to try to be similar to these other facilities. So then a little bit more of the detail of the plan. So we have parking here, some on gravel, and then we have paved accessible parking. And that all leads from a sidewalk and a sidewalk from the street to an entrance here. And that sidewalk also connects to the sidewalk along the road. Purposefully, this parking is not deliberate, is right up against the dog park, so we have space for vegetation here for shade, but also we have a swale here so that we can manage that stormwater and not have it come from the parking right to the dog park. And there's a couple different colors within the dog park. You have white and then there's a gray. The white is concrete pavement and the gray is pea stone. So the concrete pavement allows us to have an accessible surface. We're accessible through the first gate, and that gets you into, consider it like a foyer. And we have the drinking fountain there, trash receptacle, the leash holder, and then you would go into a gate for the large dog area or a gate to the small dog area, and they would each have a path that would lead you to a bench, a path lead you to a bench with shade structure here, and also a path that goes right along the dividing fence between small dog and large dog that has another shade structure that has a bench on either side, one in small dog, one in large dog. We also have double leaf maintenance gates for each area here and here. So if a DPW truck or anything needs to get in here for whatever reason, they can do that, but that would be locked on a normal basis. And then those agility features I mentioned, the ramps and tunnels, those kind of things are shown here and here. And I already mentioned earlier, but here's the wetland, delineated wetland, and the 100-foot buffer is this dashed blue line. I keep going. We have our construction documents as they were submitted to the Conservation Commission. I'll go through these quickly, but if you have detailed questions, they're here for us to really get into. But from a site preparation standpoint, we would strip the remaining topsoil, and that would be taken away, although we could use some of it just to grow for the lawn after we have the disturbance from the construction. We have erosion control all around the downhill side of this to protect the wetland area and just so we don't have sediment going down the slope. And we also have tree protection for an existing tree that is fairly large. I think on this sheet, it's everything I described in the rendering, so I won't be repetitive there. And then in terms of grading, this is not a completely flat site. It's fairly flat in the small dog and for about half of the large dog, but then it starts to roll downhill. We did add a vegetated swale on the downhill side to be able to capture stormwater and treat it, and then it just spreads out, not directing it toward the wetland. Then in terms of planting, we have native trees basically surrounding the dog park. Very deliberately, no trees in the dog park because they would have to have a fence around them for them to survive. But as I mentioned, we know this shade is going to be long-term shade, so that's why we have those built shade structures. And then in terms of utilities, I mentioned some of the required infrastructure. So we are tapping into a water line, running a new pipe to serve a drinking fountain that is for humans and dogs, and there would be a spigot there so that we could hose down the pea stone and keep it clean if it needed to be.
Will there be water, you can access water from inside?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, there would be a dog bowl that's part of the drinking fountain. You know, so there's a human drinking fountain and the dog bowl's attached to that down at the
But
ground.
inside the gated area, not the first gated area, but the main,
The play area.
yeah, the play area.
Yeah, it's actually it's only in the gated area. Yep.
I think that's kind of a mistake. It probably should be in the main play area. Just in case, I mean, I don't know, dogs get a little territorial. That's an area, that's gonna be like a big area where people bring their dogs in and out of. So I don't know if that's enough room for some dogs.
Yeah, the only, I mean, we could certainly do that. We would need 2 drinking fountains instead of one for small dog, one for large dog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, which might make sense for,
You know what I've seen in a lot of just get some stainless steel dog bowls. Area, but I agree with you.
yeah,
The
I've
better
seen,
option would be 2 water stations, 1 in each.
yeah, that's just what I've seen.
That way, you know, if you get a small dog and a big dog that aren't supposed to be interacting, going after the water.
And just in like that area that's high traffic with people bringing in dogs, trying to bring out dogs and might, yeah.
What's the cost impact if you were to do 2?
You know, I think installed they're probably about 7,000 each, and some piping. But so, and we're going to be running the numbers after this meeting just to do a double check of where we're at, so we can look into that.
It's worth looking into.
That might make cleaning up. I agree.
Otherwise, I have these detail sheets. I'm happy to, go over any of the details you'd want to see, but I think I can probably stop there and open up for questions.
The parking, is there a reason why it's not going to be paved?
Well, I think, part of it was, so there's two things. One, to have less pavement and to have something that's permeable, even though gravel is, partially permeable, and then a cost issue as well. And we're not planning on plowing it because we're not necessarily going to plow the dog park.
I know that road that brings you up to where the soccer fields are, when I'm guessing that the rain washes a lot of that gravel away. Been up there and for the last month or so. So it would be nice. I don't know if it's in the plans to pave it at some point.
Sorry, we are working within kind of a tight budget, so, like we said, 90% of this is getting funded through the Stanton Foundation. They'll fund up to $250,000, and then we were also awarded some ARPA money, so we just have to be careful of costs where we can. And so, as Kyle said, I think paving would add a substantial cost to the project. But that's kind of just where our thought process is. Not that we're trying to be cheap. This is
No, I
it's
get
just we don't want to.
I actually don't mind the gravel. It's going to be high traffic, but they're going to be pulling in, pulling out. It's not going to be a lot of driving on it. It's just going to be parking. So I don't really mind it. It's
For
not that
dogs,
bad.
it's fine.
I just had one question about going back to the center area where the dogs come in originally. So in other words, they come in through a gate, I assume, and then there's a large open area in which the water fountains will sit.
Yes.
And at that point, you're still supposed to have your dog on a leash as they come in there and stay in there. So you would not remove the leash until you took them essentially out to their spaces. I mean, my concern is that, dogs obviously interact as you come in together. I mean, if you get 4 people coming in with their dogs at the same time, they're obviously going to interact. So I'm just wondering how, I don't know whether there was any thought of putting, dealing with the water in a slightly different way. I mean, my concern is to, as I said, you get 4 dogs coming into this open area. You have 2 places where they can go to drink, but we know from experience if you have dogs that just because you're the small dog and you're supposed to be over here doesn't mean that's where you're going to go. You're going to go to either one and interact accordingly. So I'm just wondering how you handle, I have not been to a dog park with my dogs. So I'm just wondering how that area is going to interact without dogs, getting mad at each other or getting possessive about things.
Can I speak? So, in my understanding, I have 2 dogs, and my understanding with that space is supposed to be used as, a safeguard. So you don't have one fence, and if that one fence is left out, then all the dogs run out. And that's supposed to be more of an entryway where you come in, lock with that back gate, then go into the proper area that your dog belongs, and then close that gate and move on.
But if you stop to have a drink,
No, so I'm continuing. So I think your idea of having 2 separate ideas, is a good idea, but if we're getting 2, if it's $7,000 for each of them, that's kind of expensive. We might want to go with the bowl idea, that if we want to go for a cheaper route. Go ahead.
yeah.
The other, I'm sorry.
Mike, go ahead.
The other option might be, one of your posted policies would be only one dog in the drinking area at a time, or whatever you're gonna call it. That way, everybody has a safe transition in and out, and also exclusive access to water. And then you could supplement that with some type of bowls that people could bring in to give their dog a drink, or they could bring their own. I've seen people bring their own. I'd prefer to see one drinking fountain in each side, but if it's a deal breaker on the cost, then, I think there are workarounds.
Yeah, I don't see the water as that huge of a deal. I think, to all your points, people who go to the dog park are going to figure out how it works, right? I don't necessarily know about the one dog policy, because then people with 2 dogs can't go. And it's just never going to be enforced.
Well,
So,
I
I don't
think,
know,
I think, I mean, if you have 2 dogs, you're considered as one person.
Right,
per
I just,
dog.
I think this is
Yeah,
something that will get figured out just from,
Right, okay.
humans being humans.
Right.
So I don't know if we have to spend too much time on it. I think either we price out the 2 fountain thing, or we figure out,
Yeah, I think a lot of
I'll go buy 10 stainless steel bowls and drop them off every
A lot
year.
of it will require you to be adaptable as, the park gets up and running and you get accustomed to it. Microphone. Sorry. Can't hear me?
you might think for the first couple of weeks that the dog park is open, you might want to think about having somebody from recreation there to just explain to people how it's working and just keep track of things. So if there need to be some changes, you can make them then. So that would be my suggestion as far as safety goes, is just, if you could have some staff there,
Yeah.
maybe those first.
And I'm sure the
couple of
dog
weeks.
officer as well, they'll be spending quite a bit of time there.
Right.
And the dog park that I go to in the next town over, and even just places that we've talked to, talking about like how everyone entering at the same time, just people sort of police themselves. If there's a large crowd, it's just, I think most dog owners are pretty responsible and kind of have a sense of, who their dog is and how their dog reacts. And that's been the case. Like I said, we've talked to a couple of different towns that people have actually been pretty pleasantly surprised at how well people police themselves. Because they want the park, they want to keep it nice, they don't want to jeopardize anything happening, shutting it down or things like that. So same thing with cleanliness, just people behavior, dog behavior. But yeah, for sure, I think that the first couple of months we'll be down there, and like I said, I'm sure the animal control officer also will take a vested interest as well.
I mean, how hard would it be to then just do a spigot on the other side in the big area? Just on the back end of the fence? Because here's my thing is and like some of us here, I have a dog as well, right? And I've been to the one in Hawkinton, been down in Franklin, all over the place. So if we have our dog in the big area, but then we have to then bring them back out to get water, or if we go in, like you're supposed to be in there technically with your dog in case something happens, right? I'm just thinking if it's easier to have it, and I know it's stretching the budget a little bit, but I mean, last time that stopped anyone from getting passed in town, right? So, like, getting approved for anything. So I think it's just worth looking into, or at least doing on that side, or, you know what I mean?
You could even have build it into the middle fence somehow so that
Right.
dogs on both sides could have access to it. I mean, there's creative solutions, no doubt.
Yeah.
I just think, we've kind of beat this to death a little bit, that we would like to see more water there on both sides, and so the little dogs aren't thirsty.
Yeah, I mean, my concern at this point is that, I think this is something we're going to have to work through, and maybe, I don't want to see somebody having to spend $7,000, quite frankly, to put a second spigot in, but I'm wondering whether it's possible. It is something that could always be added if it becomes necessary. So I would prefer to go with the one at this particular time, and then you see how it works. I mean, people that go up to Patriot Park there's no water up there, so they seem to be able to get along with that. And it isn't like your dog's going to be out there for 3 hours in the hot sun. So I guess that would be my feeling.
Yeah, I feel like you've got 2 people that go to dog parks. The people that go at the same time every day or every whatever, or the people just randomly bring their dogs. And the people that go there all the time are going to very quickly figure out the system. And if there's one water thing, they're going to bring jugs of water when they need to go, right? That's, we used to bring my dog to the dog park that had no water, and that's what we did. We just brought our own bowl and a jug of water, and it worked out. So I think it'll be okay.
Are we done with the water thing? Can I ask you a couple other questions?
All right. Mark, you have some other questions?
Yeah, a couple of things. in my experience, people tend to park all over the place up there, especially when there's games and things. I'm not necessarily saying we make this a condition of this permit, but have you ever considered making the traffic flow around the whole site one way?
So our new fields manager actually developed a traffic pattern per se. I think it's pretty good. So we have it in front of where I sent it to the police, fire, DPW, just to make sure it makes sense for everybody. But that is definitely something I want to get accomplished, just to get better signage up there so it's clear which ways. But yeah, essentially, we're hoping that it will ultimately be like a one-way with some exceptions. But
I just know that when it gets really crowded there and people are parking on both sides, you've got cars coming from either direction, and I'm not sure it'll be as big an issue here as it is further down towards the soccer fields, but
Right.
It always made more sense to me, just make people go counterclockwise or clockwise, whichever the case may be.
Yep, he did develop a
around
traffic
the site.
pattern, so yeah, more to come on that, because it's definitely been something that we've talked about too in the rec department, the rec commission. Just the more use that space gets, it needs to be clearer, even just where fields are. I mean, there's tiny little fields now, like field 7, like with a small arrow, but there needs to be clear signage, and so we're definitely,
Particularly since you've now put in the cricket pitch and
right.
the others, so I think that's the change. So I think signage is key at this particular time. And also signs, this one would be, dog park only, and, there'd be other,
Exactly.
so that kind of signage, I think, will make the difference that needs to be done.
And one more thing, are we naming this park? Is it going to be like Stanton Dog Park or
Stanton
Story Dog Park? Or?
I think for right now, it's the Westborough Dog Park. Stanton does require a small sign that says that it was funded by Stanton, but it doesn't have to be named the Stanton Dog Park.
Yeah, I believe in giving credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
If they're funding 90%, I would
Yeah.
suggest that they get credit, but,
For now, it's.
people are going to call it what they want to call
Want
it.
to donate $7,000 for more water, you can get your name
Get
up
your
on the
name
sign
on the-
too.
You can get your
Silverberg
name on a
Dog Park.
plaque. Yeah, plaque, we'll put it on the fence there for you.
No, I'd name it after my dog, Tucker's Dog Park.
There you go.
There you go.
Nice question.
Right.
Hazel, can I
Yeah,
ask a question?
sure.
Was there any consideration for evergreens planted like interspersed around the property? I say that for 2 reasons. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Just to break up the view from people at the soccer fields. And then also during the winter, I've been to plenty of dog parks that are just like barren and the wind whips through them and it's freezing. And I'm wondering if like evergreens around the fence area would kind of break that up to make it a little bit more comfortable in the winter.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, we have just deciduous, just on some of the plant communities nearby, but, I think there could be.
Yeah, I think it particularly makes sense in the winter because with the wind whistling through there, I think having some more shelter around there in the winters through evergreens is
Some of
going to help.
Sorry. And some of the comments that we had gotten back from our tree warden, that was the suggestion to keep all of the trees the same, but we could run that by him and see what he thinks of that. But the call to make them all the same came down from a recommendation from our tree warden, so. But, yeah.
Actually, I think it looks nice with the mixture than just.
What
the
was
same
the
old
reason
things.
for all the same?
I didn't get a reason, but I can follow up and.
doesn't matter.
Yeah. See.
Good point. Anything else? Any other questions? Jenny, do you have anything to add to this?
I did provide the board with some suggested conditions. Most of them are just our standard conditions, but I'm happy to go through them if you would like. They've been reviewed by the engineering department and the applicant as well.
Maybe you just run through the conditions and the general conditions quickly, and we'll take a look at them, because I think it's the first we've all seen of them generally, and then we can move forward to a motion if everyone's ready for it. Mark?
Did we get any public comments, written, or? It is a public hearing.
Right.
I know no one's here, but did anybody send us?
Did we get any public comments on this, Jenny?
No, we haven't received any official public comments.
Is there anyone here who'd wish to comment on the dog park? Hearing none. Jenny, do you want to just run through the conditions?
Sure. So you all have a printout of them. So I'll just go through them. The general conditions, the decision needs to be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. It's limited to the site plan that was presented. The applicant is responsible for filing any other permits, which they've already done through the Conservation Commission, and then any stormwater permits needed from the engineering department. The permit will lapse in 3 years if it's not exercised, unless they request an extension. The hours of operation will be between dusk and dawn. Trash will be removed from the site at least once a week. There'll be additional signage that provides information on the sizes of the dogs, rules and policies, and then a link to the website for more information. Any questions on those before I move on? Prior to construction, they'll need to provide a construction schedule, and we'll have a pre-construction meeting between town staff. Any materials used on site must be submitted to the DPW for review and approval prior to commencement of construction. Any questions on that? Okay. During construction and site development, the decision needs to be kept in a location that's visible, must comply with all the applicable zoning bylaw, planning board rules and regulations. Sorry, I lost where was any work in the right-of-way is subject to the DPW regulations. It's suggested that you keep a water truck on site to wet down any dusty areas. They'll be responsible for cleanup of construction debris. They'll need to provide appropriate erosion control methods, and the Conservation Commission was specific about requiring a compost filter sock for the erosion control method. The standard hours of construction operations per the bylaw. Any modifications to the site plan as directed by the DPW will be subject to the DPW review and approval. And then the applicant will need to submit an operation and maintenance plan to the DPW for the proposed stormwater measures. The landscaping must be completed per the plans. And then the applicant's responsible for maintaining the landscaping and plantings on the approved plan. The applicant shall provide adequate snow storage in the area shown, but it sounds like you're not plowing.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the applicant or from the board on this?
No questions, but I just want to say, given the constraints, I think you guys did a really nice job designing this park, and I think it's going to be a very valuable asset to the town. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Can I ask when it's going to be ready?
We're hoping to wrap up this process and be able to go out to bid hopefully early this summer. And
So this year? or-
I'm hoping for this year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Oh, that would be great.
I'm not in a rush, I'm just curious.
All right. Are we ready to have a motion on this? There are no more questions?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move that the planning board approve the full site plan review for 0 Lyman Street, parcel 38-1 FB, as presented with the conditions noted this evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you and good luck.
Thank you so much.
All right, if we have no other matters at this point, Jenny, have you got any updates for us?
The only update I have is that the downtown plan public meeting will be tomorrow night in the Forbes building in the Great Hall at 6 p.m. So I hope you all can make it.
Can't make
Can I
it.
just make a comment?
Yeah.
I was disappointed that the wastewater, the trash information session was also tomorrow night. I thought that was poor scheduling for somebody who might want
information on the new waste policy.
Yeah, from what I understand, that there will be 2 sessions on that, but I did just find that out as well, that that's scheduled for the same night.
Fortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it, so.
No, I'll be there tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss it.
Yes, but it's a lot more fun if you attend in person.
I would love to attend in person. I don't know if I can get out for 2 nights.
All right. Reports of board members and town committees. We had our first meeting last night of the Community Preservation Committee, and there are, essentially, we've been tasked with things that we need to do to set up the committee and to get things moving forward. And our responsibilities of the committee at this point are to assess the community preservation needs of the town, review the master plan, open space plan, meet with other committees and boards, hold public hearings to get input on CPA priorities, prepare a community preservation plan, and then look at application and guidelines. So essentially, we're moving forward at this point. How we're doing this is, luckily, our town has just done a master plan, so we're not in a situation where we have to go out and gather a great deal of information, which a lot of other towns are forced to do. And so what we're doing is that the members of the committee itself come from certain areas in town. Open space, historic, recreation, housing are really the 4 main areas, because those are the areas which the Community Preservation Act funds. So the committee members will be looking at the master plan along with a plan from one of the towns which has already done a plan. Instead of reinventing the whole wheel, we're taking a look actually at the Northbridge Town Preservation Plan. Northbridge is a town similar in size to us, similar budget. They had done a plan. We're kind of taking that as a model, and we're going to fill in for Westborough, and the members of the committee in their particular interests will look at the master plan, look at the proposed plan, the proposed community preservation plan, and kind of put these together in pieces. And we'll do a draft plan, which we hope to have ready by the end of the summer. And we would then take that to the various boards and commissions in town as a draft, have them take a look at it, any comments that they may have on it, and then further perhaps go out to the public and get further comments on that. So that's how we're moving forward. We have to have an article on the October town meeting that has to do with finances, and it's a statute retiring thing where we have to take the money that would have been available from the budget in 2024, 23, and it has to be put into a fund. Essentially, we'll sit there until we get the committee off the ground and begin of applications. So anyway, that's kind of how that works, and that's how we're moving forward on that. So I think it's, I think it's going to be a workable committee, and I think we'll get going. Hopefully be ready by next spring to begin to look for applications for the money.
Yeah, I really don't mind that, those funds carrying over.
They have to carry over.
Well, I would advocate for a very conservative fiscal approach from the committee, because I really think it's important that we stockpile some money so that the next time we get a big ticket item, we don't have to go to town meeting. We can look for that money
Well, we're
that's
not,
already been.
this is not a lot of money at this particular time. And I'll tell you, when we look at the list of all the towns that have CPA, we're one of, I think, 3 that have the lowest amount. Most
Probably the
towns
newest, right?
are the 3 and 4%.
Oh, the percentage.
Percentage, and we're at 0.5%. So
But my
a lot of
understanding-
towns have a lot more money, but we have to
Still gonna
wait
be like-
5 years before we can change it.
Still gonna be like 400 a year, right?
About 400,000.
So in 3 years, if we don't just spend it all on, again, I'm not on the committee, so I can't judge what a worthy project is, but in 3 years, we'll have $1.2 million, and next time we have a field to build, or a park to build, or open space to purchase. We won't have to go to town meeting. We can theoretically come to the CPC and ask for substantial.
The funding still has to get funded through town meeting, though.
Right, every time. I think one of the
Right,
things.
but we won't have to go
Yeah.
to town meeting with
It's
a
not gonna be a
raise and,
general
with a
fund thing.
raise and appropriate.
No, but one of the things I think the committee was concerned about or thinking about is the fact that any project that we need to looking at some projects at the beginning that are going to be visible to the town, to show them that we've spent the money in a particular way to benefit the town. So, for example, the first few projects may be not big projects, but hopefully something that people in town will see where their money's gone. And so there seemed to be some feeling from the committee that we need to, look at some of those things so that we can't stockpile it all the time, but we need to be visible as to where that money is being spent. And also with the hopes in some time that we may be able to raise the percentage as we see things going. I mean, for example, money could have been spent on the town hall. That would have been a possible thing, because that's a historic building. So, as I said, that's one of the things that I think we as a committee are trying to keep in mind, is to make ourselves visible in using that money so the community sees it.
Right, and money
it
could
doesn't
have-
just go out and buy a large field.
No, I get that. Money could have been spent on the dog park instead of the ARPA funds. Money could have been spent on, money could be spent on the B walls,
Yeah, right.
right? I guess what I'm concerned with is that we get applications in, and I just don't want to see it spent the entire fund spent every year. I want to see it
Just because you
grow
have
to-
it, doesn't mean you need to spend it.
Well, that's right.
That's right.
I don't-
If it eases your worry, I know in Hopkinton, they like beg for applicants because they don't get enough applicants to spend the money, and they just have an ever-increasing budget because they don't expend what they're.
Oh, don't get me wrong, I can spend the money. I got plenty of things we can spend the money on. I just don't,
someone made
I
the-
just-
yeah.
I just don't want to, like,
But the other thing is when
Turn
you
around
get the
and-
money, you need to spend it within a certain amount of time. So if you go with like 5 projects, I'm saying if Parks and Rec goes in with 5 projects, like they're gonna have to figure out a way to spend all that money within that time frame. Otherwise, they're gonna have to give it back. So I just think eventually people are gonna say, okay, we'll do like 1 or 2 projects because we're not gonna be able to manage all of this. And it's really gonna,
but I just know, like, if there's a big open space purchase, I don't want to have to go to town meeting and say, we need to borrow $2, $3, $5 million if,
but the other thing is you're gonna be limited
That's right.
by how much the percentage, because open space can't take the whole pot.
no,
They
they
just
can
get a
take
certain
80%
percentage.
a year if they had to.
Wait, could you
Yeah.
put,
80? No.
10% has to go to open space every year.
Yeah.
10% has to go to to
Historic,
historic every year.
10
And 10%
recreation.
has to go to affordable housing every year.
And record there are
That's
4.
30%.
No.
Right.
10% is 40, it's 10% historic, 10% to recreation, 10% to housing, 10% to open space, that's 40%.
I thought it was just 3.
No.
I think it's open space
4, but
and
then
recreation.
isn't there a limit of how much
There is.
each can get out of the total?
Was my understanding, okay, so out of that 40%, that leaves 60% that can be allocated towards any one of those. So in theory,
I thought there was a limit that
There's
it
a
couldn't
limit
do, it
somewhere,
couldn't
and
take the
I
rest
can't
of
tell you
it.
what it is. 'cause I
well,
have
this
to
is
look it
why
up.
we have a committee, so they know all those rules and can figure it out. I just think it's important that if, for example, if we go buy some open space, some of that may be recreation land as well. Or, so I just feel like we need to be very careful that we're not overutilizing this fund. And I do understand your point about trying to show the town that this money is that this is a positive thing for the town, but.
can you put it towards the rec center? The new one? Yeah. That's gonna cost us a ton of money?
Yeah,
Probably a
You
good one.
can't do it for, what does it say? You can't support recreation.
right.
You can create, so I guess, could you use it like internally
Yeah,
to like
for their
create
build-out.
new
For their build-out, it's gonna cost.
spaces?
The guidelines are pretty specific, and I would have to look at
Yeah.
them.
Potentially.
That would be a good one.
Potentially,
Something
there
that the
could be
town
some,
wanted.
yeah.
Well,
No, I understand where you're
exciting.
coming from, Mark, but I'm just saying that people have different ideas about how they want to spend this money. So anyway, it'll be up to the committee to look at the application.
Absolutely, people have different ideas, and I'm not saying my ideas are the only good ideas, right? I'm just saying, I just would really like to get to a point where we have, I mean, the whole reason I pitched this, or supported this, was, it's like, saving for a rainy day, but getting money from the state to help us save, right? Not, let's go have a slush fund so we can fund every Tom, Dick, and Harry's project. I
Well,
mean,
no, but I
don't think that's gonna happen,
That was not the idea
I
behind this.
just want to see this money grow.
Everybody-
I would like to see the fund grow to a point where when we have a big ticket item that we can use this money on, we actually have money in the fund, and we don't have to say, well, we've only got 600,000, we need 2 million.
while to grow
So
that,
now we have to go to town meeting and ask the town to come up with 1.4 million for something. Again, I'm talking about scenarios that are not even there right now.
No,
right?
but it's probably something that will happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, there is, and, to be able, as I said, it's going to be a balancing act, so we'll just have to see how it goes forward.
I mean, I know from being on the open space that
We have,
there's about 8 parcels in town that if they came up for sale, I would really hope the town would find a way to buy them, but I don't want to go, I mean, that's why we did that last one, is at almost no cost to the town, right? I mean, it was from a small portion from the Walkup Robinson, but most of it was grants.
obviously, the point is to try to use this fund to get other funds to match and work with it, so that, that's one of the whole points of it, is that you have some money, but then you're going to try to draw in other grants or various things like that, which you
Right.
can do, so.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. If we're using this, like a lot of potential grants say, well, one of the criteria for the grant is that the town comes up with some money itself, right?
Right.
That should be a beneficial factor towards an application. So anyway, I'm sorry. I can go.
No, it's good.
I can go.
I
attend the-
honestly didn't realize some of the specifics of that, so that was good to get to learn.
Well, I think when we get the plan together, we'll bring it to the planning board to have a look at when you get the community preservation plan, and that'll probably,
I can
allow
tell you, the
people
whole
more
thing is pretty
information on it.
complicated. Like, I actually was hoping we could use this community preservation money to fund an appraisal, and I found out you can't actually fund an appraisal. Even though we're trying to buy open space, we can't use that money to fund the appraisal to buy open space. So,
there are very
just-
specific rules and regulations on the use of them
anyway,
by statute.
sorry.
All right. Any other, let's see, we have been discussing in the Design Review Board the new regulations for signs. I think we finally come to an agreement on the new application, which will be much easier for any applicant to read. And I don't know there, Jenny, do we have is it on
Say that again?
sign, the new sign, that's on our website or not?
No, so the planning board will still need to adopt those standards. So I'll likely put it on to the July 2nd meeting.
Okay.
If we choose to have a meeting that date, because it has to be advertised in the newspaper.
Right. But anyway, I think we came to a good conclusion on how to do this, so I think you'll be pleased with the new application, and it'll be much easier for people to do signs in the town. So those are the two things I was on. Anybody else has been to a meeting of any type? Okay. We have 1 minute. John?
All right, we have minutes from May 21st. Did anyone have any comments or changes? I have a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I'll move to accept the minutes from May 1st.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0.
Thank you. upcoming meeting dates. I would guess that July 2nd would not be a popular date to me,
Yeah, I will not be here.
off the top of my head. I don't know what we have coming up. The next meeting, we'll be back with, I assume, 18 and 30 Lyman Street. I don't know if there's anything else major coming up at this time, Jenny?
Yeah, the agenda will actually be quite full.
On July 2nd?
No, on June 18th for the next agenda. For July 2nd, we don't have any applications for anything specifically that would have been advertised, but we'll most likely have continuations until July.
So there's 5 Tuesdays in July. Could we do the 2nd and 4th instead of the 1st and 3rd? And how would that affect us getting space for a meeting?
The only thing I would check on is when the Board of Selectmen meeting. I think it's always hard if we try to have our same meeting the same night as the Board of Selectmen. It just, I don't know what their
Well, they're
dates.
probably-
They meet the second and 4th Tuesday, so it would be
My
conflicting.
inclination might be to pick the 3rd Tuesday and try for just one meeting in July on the 3rd Tuesday.
We
which
can
would-
certainly look into that. I don't know this room's availability yet, but we can look into that.
Which would be between,
Well, that would be our normal meeting day.
yeah.
The 3rd
So
Tuesday.
I would look to the 3rd
So we just cancel
Tuesday.
the 2nd.
Cancel the 2nd and look to the 3rd.
We could always have an extra meeting on the 30th if we
Right.
feel like it's necessary and just have 30th and August 6th, but I'd agree with Hazel on that. Just go with this one meeting in July, cancel the 2nd, and hope for the best.
Right.
Yep. I will not be at the meeting on June 18th. So you guys can go wild and just approve everything. I'd be
Not
okay
reading,
with
we're not
that.
reading the notice ahead of any here.
I will provide a memo, but you do have quite a few continuances to that date.
So we can't make any decisions?
You can definitely make all the decisions, and I can come back in July with a totally clean slate.
All right.
But, no, I'll prepare everything, but we can talk at our, pre-agenda review meeting on what you want to do for that. I'm just throwing it out there.
Because I would think by then, hopefully the sewer situation with 18 and 30 Lyman Street might have been resolved. That would be the only item I could see where we might be close to making a decision on.
Yeah, I know that they're really hoping that it will be done by then,
Yeah.
so I can have everything drafted.
So that's the one I would think, because I think, we would like to move forward on that at this particular time, and the fact that they've been before us for quite a while now. We've had, a number of public comments and so forth, and information on that.
I think they still owe us a lot more than just that.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll be ready to move forward at the 18th or not.
No,
but
I
I
don't.
think we'll have to talk about it on the 18th, though. We really have to be careful not to talk about it tonight.
Right, exactly. I'm just saying that, we'll see where we are then, but that's the only matter that I was thinking that might be close. That
You
one.
also have 101, the 105 Flanders,
Right, that was the other
165
one.
Flanders, and then there's an A&R application as well.
What application?
An A&R.
Oh, yeah.
Did the DPW get their report yet on the sewer?
No, we're expecting a draft report by the end of the month.
All right, is there anything else that anybody'd like to bring up tonight?
Yes.
Yeah, Mark?
So I got an email about renewing my terms for various committees.
Oh, I did too. I haven't filled
And
that
I
out.
responded to it, but I was a little confused because the committees I'm on are appointed, because this board asked me to serve on those committees. So I mean, is there a communication gap, or are we as a board just suggesting that John is on the municipal or the
Zoning review.
or like suggesting that I'm on the master plan and
I'm gonna guess
the
it's just an
select board
IT
has to-
database that has
Yeah.
everyone in, and then at a certain date, it just automatically sends you an email.
So I guess what I'm saying is on the June 18th, we need to do our reappointments of those committees? Or,
When they expire, do they expire on June 30th?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to ask our right-hand person, Kristen, to help us figure that out.
Yeah, I would say they end June 30th.
All right, so maybe
So
can we
what have
put,
you done in years past? I mean, typically a board at, a certain time each year would reappoint.
Right, they contact us, essentially the town clerk contacts us and says, are you going to serve another term? But the thing is that the boards vary. Some are appointed, they're done in different ways, so consequently, some are the planning board appointments to a particular
Right.
committee. I don't know whether those,
I think Jenny's asking, how have we as a board done it? Like,
Yeah,
when have
that-
we done it?
yeah,
we've
so,
done it in June.
so for example, the master plan implementation
Right.
committee, this board appoints that, not the select board. So I'm just unclear if,
So why does,
like, if they're getting the same email, like, because I got an email saying the select board wants to reappoint, or you need to apply to be reappointed to the master plan implementation committee, but the select board has the discretion to not appoint you. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. And that's probably.
Probably just
But
some-
also, in the past, Kristen gave us a list of who was
on which
currently
committees?
serving and on each committee, and we would basically appoint Hazel and I to do them all. No,
Yeah, right.
no, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if we would do this.
To John's point, I feel like we did that recently.
Yeah.
I feel like we did just do that.
Kristen, you gave us a list.
I think we did it after the election.
Yeah.
So is that when we do it, just in March?
Well, I think, yeah, the main question is which committees do have to be reappointed to the Board of Selectmen? And for example, design review doesn't. Design review goes through the planning board.
Right, same with the master plan.
And the
So,
master plan committee goes to the planning board. CMRPC goes to the planning board. The zoning thing goes to the planning board. So maybe the thing just to clarify with Sheila, why we're getting this, and that as far as I can see, all the committees that we are on presently are not Board of Selectmen appointed committees. They're just planning board committees, which means that there's no,
well, there are committees that are appointed by the select board.
Right, but none of
Where
those-
the committee makeup says one member has to be a member of the planning board, and I assume we vote as to who that is going to be, but technically that's, like the open space committee, I think, is a select board appointment.
Right.
Even though we've all met and said, well, I'll volunteer to be that representative, right? But the select board actually appoints the open space. But we also need to have an agenda item for the committees that we appoint.
see, I
But
thought
didn't we do that in March?
I thought
after
we
the
did
election?
that in March.
I don't think we renewed the master plan
I think we did. Because I had to step
voted that
off,
on a slate.
I had to step off of the sustainable board because I couldn't attend the meetings, so we
Right.
switched, and then I was open space. So I think we did
I
something.
think we did something on this.
Maybe it was
Back
a
in
2-year
March.
term and we didn't do the implementation committee because of that? Or is it indefinitely and we just kind of left it
I
going?
mean, some of the boards are indefinite.
Yeah, I remember there being a table with like the term length
Yeah.
and
Kristen gave us a table. Yeah, and let us know.
I just want to make sure that if we, if we're responsible for a committee appointment, that we don't accidentally let the term expire because we didn't realize we had to
Get reappointed.
reappoint them, either be reappointed ourselves or get them. I just found it a little confusing.
It was confusing, because usually if you're reappointed, then you get this form thing, when you go in, because then you have to go in, if you're reappointed, you generally have to go into the town clerk's office to get sworn in. But you don't get sworn in to go to design review or the zoning thing, or.
you're supposed to. I think you are.
For what?
If you're a member of those boards, even if you're a representative of the planning board, you still have to get sworn in as a member of that board.
Committee, right. Well, then, Kristen, clarify this for us, would you please?
We'll look into
Find
that.
out.
Hazel's been sworn into every boarding committee she's on,
No.
for the record.
That does remind me of one thing, if I may. You probably all got emails to remind you to do your ethics training.
I did mine.
I deleted it.
I forgot.
Thought that was optional.
Undelete it.
I forgot.
You
Do May
definitely
22nd,
need to
because I
complete it.
sat down on May 22nd and
I
did it.
don't do those for work.
May
The
22nd?
state,
That's when it was
the
due.
state has a new requirement in there.
right.
You can no longer skip through the videos.
No, you can't.
You have to watch them,
Just sit and watch it,
and you have to answer questions.
right, at the end of each little
So-
section.
It does not take that long.
What happens
I
if you
did it,
don't?
it took about,
Takes about
Maybe-
45 minutes.
yes.
I don't think I got
So-
that email.
And the hardest thing was you can't skip through it. No, they give you a notification when you finished, and then it's automatically filed with the state that you have completed the training.
Yes, but if you can
I got an
just-
email.
If you get an email of your certificate, just forward that along to us.
Oh, I didn't forward it, but I did.
Okay, if you can just do that. So the other part of it that we would like to start keeping track of is any webinars you all go to or conferences, things like that. So in a grant application I'm working on, they did ask that question. If you get extra points essentially, if you're members of the planning board or select board, attend conferences such as the Citizen Planner Training Collaborative that is held every year at Holy Cross. That's one that we would essentially get extra points if you all attend that or any other conferences.
Would
So-
you get extra points for the training that was done for the community preservation?
Possibly. If you have something that confirms you were there or took the training, then send it along and we'll just keep it.
It must
And
be in the
submit it.
minutes somewhere. Did someone, I know that minutes were taken from that, but I'm wondering, that was a training, and there were a lot of people there who were non-members of the committee itself. So I'm wondering whether that would count as a training.
Possibly. It doesn't hurt to send it to us, but Kristen and I will be keeping track of your trainings that you go to. So any conferences or even through MMA, the Massachusetts Municipal Association, or AICP, or the APA, any of them that you would go to, or Mass Housing Partnership, there's one next week. I don't know if any of you all are signed up, but that's also something that if you attend one of those, just let us know and we'll keep track of it, and then we can submit it to get us extra points. Right now, if you went to the CPTC conference last year in Worcester, please, if you have your registration, just send it to us. Something that says you were there.
Well, that was, I
Yeah.
went to the one last year.
I'm trying to get extra points on the grant application.
Well, yeah, so
'Cause
Hazel and I went to the one in '23, not the one that was just held in
Right.
'24.
That's okay, that will count. They're asking for the
and
past
We should
5
have a
years.
record of that already, right?
And I'm sure I sent something. Yes. Oh, I don't know. There is money. I know I sent something in at one point because Jim Robbins needed it for extra points for some grant he was applying for.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what I remember. So Jim, we sent confirmation, I think, you probably did too, Mark, confirmation to him for points on a grant last year.
yeah, and Jenny,
I remember doing that.
Jenny, when we applied for oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the designation.
Green communities,
No,
housing choice.
it might have been Housing Choice Community. There was like a list of like 13 criteria where you could get points, and we needed citizen training, and yeah, I'll look it up.
Been housing choice.
Maybe it was something, oh, I remember, I'd sent it in.
Okay. Well, if you don't have it, that's fine. It's a new question. Forward can just send us whatever you have. That would be great. Dear ethics training. I will forward it to you.
I don't think I got it. I don't think I did.
They're assuming that you all are ethical, which
Or I did it last year. Is it every year now, or is it every 2 years still?
I think it's every year now.
All right, if there's no more business, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Westborough TV.